Howdy, y'all! I'm Rissy, molecular biologist and skincare-loving weirdo. Back when I was first getting into skincare, one problem that I found was a serious lack of resources, like basic accessible information on skin biology and how that sort of fit in with skincare products in general. I mean, yeah, I'm a biologist, but I'm a molecular biologist who at the time was studying meiosis in female fruit flies, not a skin biologist. I don't know if there's a word for that. Integumentarologist? BT dub, the integumentary system is the fancy science name for your skin, nails, and hair. I remember suffering through, like, 8th grade biology, and in your textbooks you'd have the real crappy drawing of like a cross-section of your skin, and there's a million labels showing you where all the various glands and types of cells are, but it didn't really, explain what any of that, meant in terms of day-to-day life, of how structure becomes function. None of that was in there. And it certainly didn't tell you how to care for your skin. So I thought it would be fun to make a video that my past self would definitely have found useful, and hopefully you guys will too. Sort of like a non-threatening version of one of those god-awful old-timey film strips you used to have to watch back in sex ed. Are sex ed film strips still a thing anymore? Anyway, a lot of people know about the basic structure of human skin, that you've got like the 3 major layers. You've got the epidermis on top, and that's going to be most important when it comes to discussing skincare, and then underneath that you've got the dermis, and then at the very bottom you have the subcutaneous layer of fat that comes under the dermis. That isn't really a thing that comes into play during day-to-day skincare, and if it does for you, that means your face has probably been ripped off and eaten, perhaps by apes. You should go to the doctor. So we jump on up a level to the dermis. The dermis is where a lot of really important stuff in your skin happens. This is the place where you have dermal fibroblasts. Dermal fibroblasts are cells that make all of the collagen in your skin and the elastin in your skin. So collagen gives your skin strength, and elastin is what makes it flexible, so that like you pull on it and it snaps back. Both of those will start to decline, like your fibroblasts can't really keep up production as you age. So that's a big thing in skincare, is how can companies formulate products that will actually get down into the dermis to start helping you increase production of collagen and elastin as you age? Well, that's really tricky. Almost nothing that you can buy over the counter that you can like rub on your skin is gonna penetrate down into the dermis, and I'll explain why as we go higher. And that's actually mostly a good thing. You don't want most skincare products going all the way down in there. That's generally bad. One of the things that does get down in there, though, is UVA radiation, which is why it is the type of UV radiation that ages you, because it gets down into your dermis and it makes you start to lose your collagen and your elastin. Oh, also in the dermis is hyaluronic acid. You've probably heard about hyaluronic acid as the kind of molecule that can hold up to 1,000 times its weight in water, and that's all true. And your dermis is where it mostly lives. There is some in the epidermis too, but the dermis is where there's like a lot of it, and that also declines as we age. This is also where like all of your sebaceous glands and your sweat glands and your hair follicles are living. Now, obviously, they all come up to the surface of your skin where they have outlets, but this is where they start. Moving on up into the epidermis. This is the layer of skin that is affected by your everyday kind of skincare. The epidermis is super, super important. So you've probably heard that it also has a bunch of different layers and they all have ridiculous names. We're not going to go into any of that. We're just going to talk about basically the life cycle of your skin cells. And I mean like the surface skin cells. We're going to talk about how they're made, and we're going to talk about what happens to them and how they slough off of your skin. All of that, because that's really what's important when you're talking about skincare. First off, you've got the home base of the epidermis, and this is where the basal stem cells are. They're all kind of like packed in there like columns, and they're kind of like weird looking as far as cells go. They're long, and they have a really long nucleus. So the nucleus is basically what commands a cell to do the stuff that it does. And what these basal epidermal stem cells do is they divide. Now, they can divide to replenish their own numbers, but they also divide to make the cells that go up to form the topmost layers of your skin. More on that in a second. But this is also where melanocytes live down here in the basal layer. Melanocytes are what make the pigment melanin that colors your skin. Now, while the cells live all the way down here, the melanin is actually transported up into your skin cells. So after the basal stem cell divides, one of its daughter cells starts to become what is called a keratinocyte. Now, if you've ever heard about stem cells, you know that they start out as having the potential to become a lot of different types of cells. Well, as the cells migrate up towards the top of your skin, what's going on is they are differentiating. They are losing their ability to be any kind of cell, or, well, any kind of skin cell, and they are becoming a keratinocyte. And it is keratinocytes that form the uppermost layers of your epidermis. And so all those different layers of your epidermis, that's all just basically steps on the way to forming the stratum corneum. More on that in a second. So the cell is pushed upward by the division of other cells. And on the way, what it's doing is making a whole bunch of other molecules that are really, really good for your skin. So these molecules are things like ceramides, which you've probably heard about as being really, really great to help moisturize your skin. So it's making ceramides, it's making what are called natural moisturizing factors. It takes about 14 days for that cell to go from the bottom of the epidermis up towards the top. And as it travels, it's basically like making and pooping out all of these wonderful lipids that are so good at keeping your skin nice and moist and forming what is called the moisture barrier of your skin. And again, this is one of those things that you may have heard about. The moisture barrier basically keeps water from getting out of your skin, but it keeps bad things from getting in as well. Also, in the layers of the epidermis that are under the top, you have what are called Langerhans cells, which are a type of immune system cells. Now, the immune system and the skin are tightly linked. If your immune system is soldiers that defend your body from invading organisms like bacteria and viruses and fungus, then your skin is like the wall around the castle that protects it. So after 2 weeks, the little keratinocyte is almost ready to be completely differentiated, and it graduates to the top of the class, and that is what we call the stratum corneum, or the old-fashioned term for it is the horny layer. I have never not amused by that, I guess because I'm a 12-year-old boy or something. I don't know. But yeah, the horny layer. And by the way, the process of an epidermal cell becoming, like fully differentiating into a keratinocyte is called cornification. You might, if you ever heard that before, think it was what happens to guys after they have kids and start learning how to make dad jokes. Nope, it's what's going on in your skin right now. The stratum corneum is so interesting. You might have heard that it's just a bunch of dead skin cells kind of packed on there, and they're in the process of just coming off, and you really need to exfoliate them off to make your skin look good. That is not true. That is a damn lie from the pit of hell. So, let me explain. The stratum corneum cells are dead, and during this process, they've made like a ton of protein called keratin, hence keratinocytes, and they start to lose their nuclei, and basically they are dead. They're no longer doing anything. They're just kind of sitting there. But the tissue itself of the stratum corneum is alive. And I mean, it is metabolically active. There are all sorts of chemical reactions going on inside this layer. It's important to remember that it's not just the skin cells that are there, it's the matrix in which they are suspended, which is made up of all those delightful lipids like ceramides that the cells had been pooping out while they were being made. There's all kinds of good stuff in the stratum corneum, so don't listen to people who tell you that for your skin to look good, you need to basically shave all of that off, because they are completely and totally wrong. One of the most important things that the stratum corneum does for your skin is to keep it nice and plump and hydrated. Because of all the keratin that's in those cells, the stratum corneum can absorb up to 3 times its weight in water. So in terms of skincare, what you want is to get more moisture into your stratum corneum. When your skin cells are like in inflated with hydration, that's when you get like the wonderful kind of glow to your skin, because the big plump smooth cells will sort of reflect and scatter light and give you that dewy glow of youth. So again, your stratum corneum is not just physiologically useful to you for health reasons, it's also great for cosmetic purposes. When a cell reaches the stratum corneum, it actually takes about 4 weeks for it to get all the way to the top and for it to get sloughed off. So the whole process takes about 48 days in total, which is why anytime you are testing out a new skincare product, you should give it at least 50 days to work. Unless it's like burning or irritating your skin, in that case, like, get rid of it immediately. But yeah, you're gonna need to give it at least 50 days so you can see any progress at all. As we age, that rate of cell turnover of those topmost cells getting sloughed off of your skin, that starts to slow down. And so that's one of the reasons why you might consider some light exfoliation. The other thing is that for some people, the cells are sticky, for lack of a better term. They stick to each other and they get into your pores and they can clog them up, and this is one of the ways in which you get zits. Speaking of those pores, so we've got sweat pores and we've got sebaceous glands, and then we've got your hair follicles. Now, sebaceous glands make a substance called sebum, and this is generally what people are talking about when they mention oil on your skin. Sebum is actually made of different waxes and fatty acids, and also squalane, which is something you may have heard about being formulated into moisturizers for skin. And the reason why is that squalane is really great because it obviously mimics what our skin naturally produces, and so it just can kind of sink in there and help buff up your skin. The sebum is supposed to waterproof and lubricate your skin and the little hairs that come out of your pores. When your sebum mixes with the secretions from your sweat glands, it forms what is called the acid mantle. The acid mantle sits on the very outside of your skin, and it's what makes your skin slightly acidic. Human skin has a pH of somewhere between 4.5 and 6.5, so let's just call it 5.5. And the acid mantle is essential for making sure that bad pathogens do not get into your skin and cause horrifying infections. So, we have a lot of bacteria that just naturally live on the surface of our skin, and a lot of them, bacteria and fungus, they eat the sebum. Now, sometimes there can be too many of them, and if they get into one of your pores that's also blocked up, this can cause acne. But a lot of them are basically just good guys, and we want them there to outcompete bad bacteria. Because our skin is slightly acidic, this means that the bacteria and the fungi that have adapted to living on it would die if they get into the skin and somehow get into your blood. Because our blood is slightly alkaline. It has a pH of 7.4, and pH is incredibly important to whether or not a microorganism can survive in any given environment. So that's why it's really, really important to maintain your acid mantle and not use really harsh soaps and cleansers with a high pH that can disrupt that. And while we're on the subject of pores, another weird lie I hear being bandied around the internet is that your skin needs to breathe through pores. That is not true, okay? Like, our pores are for stuff to come out of, like follicles and sebum and sweat. Stuff does not go into your pores. If it does, it's probably gonna clog them up and give you zits. Like, your skin does not need to breathe. We are not amphibians, we are human beings, so we don't breathe through our skin. I mean, maybe some of you are amphibians? If you are, stay away from my house, Mr. Marsh. I don't want your deep one babies, ew. Wow, whew, that was quite a journey. We started from the bottom and now the whole team's here. The team that makes your skin. Future videos will build on this. We'll talk about more specific things like, acne and how the immune system is tied into that. But for now, that's it. I hope this has been helpful and useful to you. Hit me up with any questions you may have in the comments, and see you soon. Bye, y'all! Fibroblasts are what happens to me when I eat too much oatmeal. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm like this.